When you think about this, I know you have this idea of capitalism and socialism end up being the same thing in this environment. Explain what you mean by that.
Because on a structural issue that you have to have inflation and you don't have a vote in a free market. Just ask again, go back to what would happen in a free market. Prices would collapse to zero everywhere. Mm-hmm. Everything would collapse. And so we tell ourselves, we dismiss that because, well, we can't let that happen. But that's the first principle answer. That's what would happen in a free market, because this credit bubble that we live in would unwind. Mm-hmm. And so we dismiss well, it's kind of free. Right? There's no kind of free. And then while you have manipulated money, every price signal has to be manipulated. In fact, as you have manipulated money, if you have and money is just an abstract concept for our time. Mm-hmm. People don't want more money. They think more money will give them.
Correct.
And so when you have misinformation and money, which is just the division of our labor, and all it is trust all over the world, wouldn't it be obvious that if you are trying to remove trust, trying to give misinformation in money, you'd have misinformation everywhere in society? And that's what's happening. And so to be able to essentially, and I don't want to call it a crime, but be able to perpetuate that lie, you have to control. Mm-hmm. You have to remove individual rights and freedoms and drive more control to perpetuate that lie. And it comes from, and this, probably the most frightening thing is the people most hurt by that lie are the most susceptible to believing in it. Correct. And will vote to keep it going. Mm-hmm. Because the thing that's hurting them and transferring that wealth to the 0.1% at an increasing rate, and it's not by the way, it's not the billionaires that are creating it. It's the system that's creating it. The billionaires are just, what would you do if you had if you had your choice of cash that was being devalued? Would you put that into a house? Would you put that into something else that couldn't be devalued? And if a country was trying to stop you from doing that, you would move your assets to another country. Mm-hmm. So every human nature would say, I'm going to get this money out of here, to save it, just like China's done to try to move their assets all around the world for the same reason. So that's a structural issue that's caused by this printing money. But society votes for it. Mm-hmm. Because, and again, going back to that free market, just ask yourself a simple hypothetical question. If a politician today told you the truth and said, listen, here's what it looks like. I'm going to advocate for a free market and I'm going to let all prices collapse. And this is what it means for everything. What I just said about no food on shelves, mm-hmm. banking failures and everything else. Would you vote for them? No one would vote for them. Mm-hmm. They would be ostracized. So politicians are incented to lie and drive more and more inflation, and they're incented to say, I'm going to help you, the person who's been most hurt from this because of those rich people, mm-hmm. and they're going to print more money to transfer more wealth. Mm-hmm. But they have to now, and that's why you need a parallel system like Bitcoin, mm-hmm. because this is a global system problem that can't solve it from the system. Mm-hmm. It's impossible. You have either complete credit collapse or you have inflation rate that keeps on going. And again, to measure this in months, when this is playing out, and it's going to play out for a long time, people are going to be, if there's a tightening, things will start collapsing really fast, and you can expect yield curve control. You can expect massive easing at some point. So if we're measuring at what point, I can't tell you. It's just, but essentially, what all bets right now are bets on when government is going to stimulate more.
Correct.
Nothing else matters, right? Mm-hmm. And so we don't live in a free market. We live in a bet on what's going to happen with people stimulating more. That's why a parallel system is required, because this system can't solve it. And that parallel system, which is Bitcoin, I think it's inevitable, is as people are starting to understand what you've been saying for a long time, what I've been saying for a lot of people have been saying for a long time, they're building that parallel system. And that parallel system on Bitcoin is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And it's moving at a velocity. And what's building on top of that is going to remake the world under a system that looks more like a free market.
Yeah. What's fascinating about this is there's a gentleman, Mark Spitznagel, who runs a fund. And the whole idea is he loses money every day by buying, basically out of the money options, betting on a market downturn. And so he loses money sometimes for years. When there is a market downturn, he's the best performing hedge fund, and he basically catches up and then passes everybody. And so I think it was February and March of 2020, he returned like 4,400%.
Yeah.
Right. And he has a book, The Tao of Capital. And I always tell folks it's probably one of my favorite books to read. And in it, he has a lot of analogies and kind of frameworks in which he thinks about. But one of them is this idea of planting a special kind of tree. And the whole idea is over a long period of time, it grows and it's very strong. And that's similar to what Bitcoin's doing. But the other piece of it is he explicitly calls out the market intervention. And he says, if every single day you show up, right, and you're constantly intervening in the markets, you distort all the price signals, you completely remove the free market. And what you actually do is, as a human, you probably make the problems worse. And that's exactly what we're talking about here, right?
You do make the problems worse. And then because people are short-term in nature, and they have mandates for 4 years, and they're short-term in nature. Now I need to get elected. And you make the problem cascades way worse.
Correct.
And they miss all the second, third derivatives of those problems, which are, and a lot of monetary theories, like ask right now, what does modern monetary theory look like, where you can just print money? Ask those people right now what just happened with Russia saying we're not pricing in US dollars. And so if you're a nation state that controls the currency of the world, and somebody else wants to price their raw materials that you need in something else, it's checkmate.
When you think of that, Bitcoin, I think, is probably the only way out for a lot of folks in this environment. How do you see Bitcoin playing out, and why do you see it as the only way out?
When I wrote my book, and I only had a paragraph on Bitcoin in my book, but because I wanted to talk about the structural issues and then a potential way out. But I've been talking about this for 10 plus years, and trying to find a way out of this, and really for my kids, and you. Probably the simplest way I could explain this is throughout history, same thing Ray Dalio talks about. You could just say, if a money could be corrupted for some people's gain over some people's expense, positive externalities, negative externalities, it will be. Not it might be. It will be for sure, and history proves it. Seizing of gold, changing of the rules of gold. History proves that will happen always. And it's because human nature is inside that state. We care about ourselves first rather than some far off land. And so we will do that. Humans will do that if a money can be controlled. And Bitcoin is the only thing that I've seen that removes that temptation or power from us, our human nature, to compete against other people. And it's kind of a profound thing because it moves global competition to global cooperation and a different Schelling point. And assuming that stays true, Bitcoin remains decentralized, which I suspect it will. And then it's out of the hands of people to be able to manipulate it. Now, when people say, okay, well, why are prices going down, manipulation on Bitcoin if more and more people are buying? There are people creating leveraged products on Bitcoin today, and some of the exchanges will fail. on Bitcoin. And when this price goes, make sure you hold Bitcoin on your own private wallet and your own keys, because over time, when this thing goes parabolic, it's going to take out a whole bunch of exchanges that are levered, and you're going to see what happens, because Bitcoin doesn't care. It doesn't have that counterparty risk unless you impose that counterparty risk by leveraging yourself onto somebody else's exchange. But that decentralization and taking that money out of control of human nature means we're forced to cooperate.
Mm-hmm.
And in labor, we'll often miss that the buyer and seller are actually the same person.
Mm-hmm.
So all of our labor shows up as somebody buying our labor.
Mm-hmm.
But because we miss that, so we miss that we can use Zoom now for effectively free. And that removed a whole bunch of other businesses because now that message can touch millions of people all over the world, essentially for free. And yet we don't want prices to fall over. We want our house prices to go up forever. Yet all the things we choose in our lives, we want more value in.
Mm-hmm.
So we miss that it's the same thing, right? All of our labor is somebody else's buying. And so we want all of our things we choose to go down in price, yet we want our assets to go up in price. And that's because of this system that wouldn't look like that system. Prices of housing would fall to their utility value.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't be used as a store of value in a market that didn't require leverage. And so all of these prices, as technology removed labor, would fall in lockstep. That's why I say it would be the broadest distribution of tech. We would still compete to create products. We would still create great technology, and the only way to win would be to delivering value to somebody else in their terms. That's the only way to get more Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
In their terms, and what would happen out of that is prices would fall. Everybody would win. Mm-hmm. So that's the world we're moving to. It's going to be chaotic on the way there. If you're living in Bitcoin, if you're managing your world in Bitcoin right now, what you're seeing is prices against Bitcoin fall forever. Mm-hmm. Every price falls forever. But if you're measuring your world in a fiat currency, you're thinking prices are going to rise forever.
Hey you, did you like this video? Great, we make 5 of them a day and post them here on this channel. Make sure you're subscribed, like the video, and see you next time.